Hi there, happy Friday. How's everybody doing? It's sure good to see y'all. Welcome to the 41st meeting of the year. If you'll rise, we'll have the Invocation Pledge and National Anthem led by Mary Bishop. Thank you, Miss Mary.
Thank you. Hello, welcome. Any particular prayer requests? We do concerns or joys. So if you just want to raise your hand, if you've had somebody graduate or, yes.
Well, I have a concern and a joy. My wife, as many of you know, had a stroke about 6 weeks ago. She's in CC Young and is doing really very well. But she'll probably be discharged next Monday, which will be fantastic. She'll enjoy being home, and I'll be at home with her taking care of her. So pray for me and pray for her.
Okay, and that's John Brown, for those of you who don't know John, and his wife is Jan. So any other prayer requests? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Don Bird. Stan Wright, General Stan Wright.
Y-
He is in critical care at Presbyterian Hospital with some heart problems. He went in on sort of some kind of a routine deal, and they went into, and the more they went in, they ended up with a quadruple bypass, and they ended up having a tear in his aorta, and he's in critical care right now.
And say his name again.
Stan Wright.
Our Stan Wright that does the North Texas Food Bank? Wow, I had not heard that.
Stan Wright.
How is he doing?
Not well.
Not well.
He's in critical care right now.
Critical care.
Critical condition.
Okay.
It's a very serious condition.
Oh, so
He
sorry.
definitely needs your prayers.
Okay, thank you. We will definitely hold them up. Any other prayer requests? Okay. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Let's take a deep breath, collect our thoughts. Feel the presence of the Lord is with us. Lord, we thank you and praise you for our many blessings, for your hand in our lives, your divine touch on our lives. We particularly thank you for Jan's recovering, that she's able to come home and the joy of being home in her own space. Father, thank you for those that will be bringing care to her, her caregivers, as well as we lift John up to you and thank you for his upbeat, always friendly, caring personality. We lift John and Jan up as a couple and ask that you bless them. And Father, we lift up our dear friend Stan and his wife Wendy, their children. Father, we ask by your divine touch and your power, by the power of the Holy Spirit that brings healing to us, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional healing, we ask in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, for healing for Stan. We ask for it right now. We ask for the doctors, the nurses to be, thank you for their knowledge, their skills, and we lift them up to you, all those that are caring for him. Father, we know that he loves and knows you, and we thank you for that. Father, we come with concerns on our hearts for those that we know. And in this room, there are many unspoken prayer requests. You know those as well. You count the hair on our head, and you know us full well. And we are creatively made. Father, we lift up to you all that we in this club endeavor to do for the betterment of others. We lift up our hands, our feet, our minds, that we will work for the betterment of your people that you created. Father, there's many avenues that we can serve. Tell us, each of us, where we can make a difference in the lives of others. And we pray this in your holy name. Amen. Okay, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see
Thank you, Mary. And now Pat Martin is going to come introduce some special guests. Pat Martin is the publisher of People newspapers.
Let's not fall. Oh, Rachel, come on up. She's just in time. I was gonna have to wing it. So Pat Martin, the publisher of People newspapers. I know I talked to the group. I know there's guests here, so you may not know exactly what I'm talking about, but we, over the last few years, have developed a 20 under 40 program. What that means is we recognize young adults in our community under the age of 40 that are doing remarkable things in the community. And today I have two guests with us that were our recipients this year. And Rachel's gonna actually do the introductions, but the ladies are gonna just give a little brief snippet of some things that they've been doing in the community recently.
Thank you, Pat. So here we have our 20 under 40 honorees, Claire Catrino. She was also recently chair of Mad Hatters, and Taylor Crosby. And I also want to give a special thanks to the members of the Rotary Club that were on our selection committee this year. I thought it was great to have so much community involvement in our 20 under 40 program.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claire Catrino. It's so nice to see some familiar faces and meet some new friends today, so thank you for hosting us. I was chairman of the Mad Hatters Tea this year, where we had a record-breaking year with the largest attendance that raised funds for the Women's Council of the Arboretum, which contributes to the Women's Garden at the Arboretum. I also was the vice president of membership for the Dallas Symphony Orchestra League, where we had a record-breaking year in membership numbers with over 1,200 members, so we're really excited about that. And next year, I will be stepping on as vice president of fundraising for the Symphony League, as well as my daughter's elementary school. And I'm also going to be helping as historian for the Arboretum, so I'm very excited. So nice to meet y'all. All right, make sure that's high enough too. My name is Taylor Crosby. Thank you all for having us here today. I am the executive director of marketing for the Women's Business Council Southwest. We are a nonprofit that helps to connect women-owned businesses with corporate and government supply chain opportunities. In addition to that, I am a member of Junior League of Dallas and worked at the Rise School this year. And then I also am on the board of the University Park Preschool Association, and we helped to raise over $115,000 for the school this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And now we're going to introduce the other guest. If you are a guest, and if you brought a guest, if y'all will please stand. We want to make sure everyone is introduced properly so we can know who all is in the room.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Keith Mankin. I'm your assistant governor. It's nice to be here again. Greetings from District 5810. Also, greetings from my home club, which is Dallas Uptown. I'm sure there'll be an announcement later, but next Tuesday, we're going to have a combined social Tuesday evening at Celebration on Lover's Lane. And I look forward to having as many of you there as possible. It'll be a great chance for us to socialize and just enjoy each other's Rotary company. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Keith. Good to have you here today.
Thank you.
I'm Kathy Allred. I'm a visiting Rotarian. I've just moved here 3 weeks ago from Austin, and I'm looking to find a Rotary Club that would have me.
Oh, fabulous. We'll get you an application.
And one other thing, I've been a Rotarian for 32 years.
Wow, congratulations.
So you became a Rotarian when you were 10 years old. You became a Rotarian when you were 10 years old.
How did you do that?
It's math. Just guessing.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Thompson, and I am University Park Elementary Teacher of the Year, and I'm here representing HPISD.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I'm also here representing HPISD. My name is Katie Mellis. I am the Teacher of the Year for the high school.
Congratulations.
Welcome to you both. Dan Drabinski, but I'd like to introduce my guest, Jacob Taos. Jacob is here for the summer. He is a junior at Babson College, lacrosse player. He's going to be interning with our team at Blue Crest as a wealth management intern, kind of running models and plans. So excited to have him, and I think this is your first Rotary meeting, right? Yes. His parents moved here from California this year, so recently in Dallas, and excited to have him. So.
Welcome, and you'll have to come back when Kyle's
Thank
here,
you.
because Kyle's also a lacrosse coach.
Welcome
to all of our guests. Sean Foster is going to highlight Michelle Brown.
One more guest.
Oh, thank you.
Hi, folks. This is my friend Carol Perry, who lives in Dallas and in Maine.
Wow.
And she says that when the temperature gets to
above
90 in Dallas, she is out of here.
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. And one thing very special about Carol is that her son is getting married in
September 17th.
Fabulous.
in Austin.
Super.
And so that's quite a to-do and quite a bit of her time. And Carol does a lot of good community work up in Maine. She works in a food kitchen and another place that sells popovers to make money for food kitchens. And what else?
That's the two main volunteers, and plus Rotary.
Yeah, oh yeah, and she's at a Rotary Club up there, and we're going to do a banner exchange afterwards. Okay, yay! Thank you for being here, Carol.
We'll do the banner exchange done.
We look forward to getting a picture later. Thank you. Welcome.
Did you want to do the banner exchange?
We're going to do a banner exchange later.
Great.
Yeah. Anyone else? Great. We're so excited to have so many guests. Welcome. And now, Mr. Sean Foster is going to highlight Michelle Brown, our PCR Marketplace advertiser. Thank you, Sean.
I draw your attention to Michelle sitting over here in the corner and her beautiful picture on the back of the hub. How's that? Okay. I'd like to, that's for our guests, one of the ways that we raise money for the causes of the club is we sell ads. And so if you'll see her on the back, I want to highlight her business. Advanced ER is a freestanding emergency room providing concierge level in the Uptown, Park Cities, and Addison areas. They provide hospital medical care in dedicated medical facilities outside of their traditional hospital emergency room. Their facilities are some of the best and most luxurious in Dallas. Their team physicians and professional staff members are always at your service, regardless of the time of day. They provide much more than your garden variety after-hours urgent medical clinic. With on-site labs, pharmacy, and imaging, they can handle your condition. They even offer complimentary treatments for general health, healing, and well-being. 24/7 emergency care without a wait. Their goal is to model and advance standard of integrative health care. They achieve this goal through 4 core values: integration, compassion, expertise, and time. Every professional that provides services at their center is dedicated to your good health and wellness. They do their best so you can live a full and healthy life and actually spend as little time in the emergency room as possible. So I think on another occasion she's going to bring some emergency kits. What do we call that? Yeah. First aid kits, yeah. So anyway, let's give her a round of applause for supporting the health.
Michelle. Thank you, Sean. And now we're going to have Happy Bucks, where you share something that you're really happy about, and whatever dollar denomination you feel comfortable with.
So before we get started, I know Sarah has some comments. Tricia, how short are we? How much does a dollar buy? How many meals?
So a dollar, there we go. You know I have a loud voice. You don't really have to have the mic. But for every dollar contributed to the North Texas Food Bank, we can turn that into 3 meals. But we also have a match going on right now. You guys are very astute in placing your donations very strategically. So now a dollar can provide 6 meals.
So I'm going to start this off with, before we go to you, so 6 meals per dollar, and a $5 donation, think about it, provides 30 meals. So I'm happy, huh? How close are we to $1 million? Yeah, how close are we to $1 million? Oh, I'm sorry. We'll get to that. So for family and friends, just happiness. Go ahead.
Thank you. So as of Wednesday, we are at 885,090 meals. So we're almost to the 90,000 or 900,000 mark. And we've got some good news. If Tricia and Tiffany would come and stand in front of our banner. Tiffany's a representative of Encore, and she is one of our title sponsors, and she has bought a check for $7,500. So if we can get one of our shutterbugs to capture the handoff. Do we have someone who's got a photo? Okay, and then send it to me, because we want to make sure we get that up on their social media. And then I have a donation which is leading to 900 meals here from a Rotarian who mailed it in. And then the person who provides our stage, Jackson Harkey, for the live stream at the parade said, instead of paying me, why don't you make that donation payable to the North Texas Food Bank? And that is a $300 donation from Jackson Harkey. So we'll look forward to another round of Happy Bucks.
Here we go. Holly?
So I just want to tell you, when this started, I got on the link Sarah sent us in her email, and I've already made my donation in a matter of 30 seconds. So it's really easy. I didn't donate $7,000. I hope my $100 will go towards some meals. So that's all I could do. But I also, since I have the mic, I also have to say my son is heading to Oxford University for the summer. He made honor roll, and my daughter just got promoted and put on the Google account in Manhattan, and so my kids are rocking it. So,
congratulations, Todd. Kathy?
Okay, I don't do this very often, but I'm doing this today because we are celebrating State Farm 100 years in business, and because of that, I felt inclined to do $100 for the 100 years happy. So thank you for providing it. Just so you know, we're the largest organically grown country in the world. A professor from Oxford said this is an unparalleled U.S. company that has done that. So anyway, I'm so excited we're turning 100. I'm not there.
Thank you, Paul.
Hi, I'm William Taylor. It's been a great week for the People newspapers. We published 2 papers on Monday. We published our first ever newcomers guide on Thursday. On Friday, we got our own table at the Rotary Club. I'm not sure how it gets much better than that. And then personally, my wife graduated this weekend with her master's in education leadership technology. So it's been an outstanding 7 days.
Thank you, William. Oh.
Well, I'm happy to donate another $100 too, because that's, what is that, 300 meals? Whatever it is, 600 meals, whatever that is. So I'm happy to do that too, just because.
Thank you, Don. Anyone else? Richard?
I'm one of the only 73-year-olds who has a daughter graduating from high school tomorrow. So Here it is.
Congratulations.
Yes, and I have a granddaughter, our first granddaughter, Autumn, and she's graduating from high school in Shiner, Texas, and she is going to SCAD, which is in Savannah. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
And then another reminder is our Grand Marshal Luncheon is Friday, June the 3rd. It's at the Park Cities Club, so that does mean we have to purchase. So I sent you an email this week with a link, but I'll send another one next week. It's $31.50. That does include your parking, and you have the option of a vegetarian, salmon, or beef entree, which you have to choose at the time you pay. So make sure you're making your selection, and we get that paid so we can get an RSVP count by the 1st of June to the Park Cities Club. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sarah. And Tiffany Richmond is going to introduce two other special guests that we have.
It's a little tricky. Hi, everyone. It is my honor to introduce our honorees again this month. First up, we have Miss Katie MELLUS, who is a teacher at Holland Park High School. Katie has been teaching and coaching at Holland Park High School since 2011 and currently serves the HPHS Social Studies Department Chair. She has taught psychology, AP psychology, brain science, and health and forensic psychology, and has coached both girls basketball and soccer. Katie's path to teaching included outreach programs, cognitive research, professional coaching, and academic advising. Her goal as an educator is to be innovative with technology while keeping the lessons meaningful. Katie also strives to challenge students to think about their outside world in a new way by understanding the human experience. Katie, if you could please join me on stage. Thank you. Next, we have Miss Rebecca Thompson, who's a teacher at University Park Elementary. Rebecca has taught 4th grade at University Park Elementary School for the past 15 years. This year was her milestone 25th year of teaching. Congratulations. Before joining the UP staff, Rebecca taught 6th grade English, language arts, and for 1 year in Irving ISD, and 9 years teaching 6th grade in Richardson ISD at Greenwood Hills Elementary School. She grew up in North Dallas and graduated from Richardson High School before attending Texas A&M University. All right. Hey, wait a minute. Aggie mom here, where she earned a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. Rebecca completed a master's degree in educational technology leadership at Lamar University in 2013. Her teaching passion includes learning through purposeful technology and hands-on experiences. She thinks Benjamin Franklin said it best: tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I can learn. Please help me in welcoming Rebecca Thompson to the stage. Thank you so much for all y'all do in the community. Oh, we're gonna do it in front of the banner? Okay. Sorry, ladies.
Eric Harrison is going to tell us about the Legacy of Leadership's 2022 project. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Our Legacy of Leadership group is collecting, and thank you to those who brought donations today, for Attitudes and Attire, which is an organization that serves women that have come out of abusive or out of prison or even the military, and they help them not only to prepare by the donations we're going to give them, and Happy, it's in the hub. Happy sent an email yesterday, all the things that you can donate. Next week is the last week, so please, if you would this week, take that flyer that Happy emailed, take it to your office and bring, but next Friday is the last day. So we are collecting donations that they use to help those women get outfitted for interviews once they go through the program. The other thing that we are doing is giving them a list of speakers, and there is a flyer also in the hub and also in Happy's email, where if you are interested in volunteering an hour of your time at a time of your choosing, they can use subject matter experts to help women to progress through their programs. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that Jeff Brady this week, part of our PR committee, there's a woman that works in the Office of Attitudes and Attire that went through their program as an ex-military veteran, and she is, we have an interview set up to air over WFAA during Memorial Day weekend. So lots of good stuff happening in Attitudes and Attire, but please remember there'll be another note next week, but next Friday is the last day. So clean out your closets. Guys, if you want to help your wife get rid of some old purses or what, bring them on up here next week and we'll take them. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. And now Pat Martin is going to share our Rotary Membership Minute. Thank you, Pat.
You've probably had enough of me, so I'm going to keep this down to a minute. Set your watch. So I've been a Rotarian since October of 2017. I think I've told you all before, and for those of you that don't know, I come from a very large family. I have 12 brothers and sisters. From a very young age, we were instilled with strong values: honesty, integrity, fairness, generosity, and a strong sense of faith and service to others. Even though we didn't have very much money growing up, we always found ways to share with our neighbors. My mom was the person that invited all the neighborhood kids over for treats, and it was always so much fun having even more kids than 12 brothers and sisters. So I thank my parents for instilling those values in me. Rotary's commitment to service above self aligns with those values, aligns with my values. It offers us opportunities to get outside of ourselves, walk with others less fortunate than we are, and we are all fortunate. And with that comes the responsibility to share our gifts and resources with others. I'm grateful that through my church and through the Rotary and other organizations I belong to, that I'm able to do that and to set that example for my kids and my grandchildren to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Isn't she great? Yes. So check the TV monitors and your bulletin for details on everything coming up. Dues are due May 31st. Pay now to avoid a $25 late fee. Dues are late if they're paid on June 1st. We have a joint Rotary Club dinner with the Dallas Uptown this coming Tuesday at from 6:30 to 8:30 at Celebration. It's going to be a lot of fun. Put that on your calendar and join us there. I'm really looking forward to it. And then Evan has organized an event for us to go to on Memorial Day March on Sunday, May 29th from 12 to 2, or Monday, May 30th from 8 to 10. So that'll be really special. Check your emails for all those details. And lastly, we really need some more volunteers for our transportation team. We have a few members that want to come back to Rotary, but they need a ride. And so if you will let me know if you can do that, and they live really close by. So if you're interested in doing that, just let me know. Thank you. And now I'm really delighted to introduce past President Richard Stanford. He's going to be our speaker of the day. His topic is a fun history of Dallas. I can't tell you how much I appreciate Richard. Colin Allred was supposed to be our speaker today, and he is ill. And so we look forward to rescheduling him, but I didn't learn this until like 4 p.m. yesterday. So you can imagine my panic. And but Richard's always coming to the rescue because he has all kinds of programs just right in his head. So let's give him a round of applause. It was very entertaining.
And I'm sorry, Kathy Allred, because you probably wanted to see the other Allred, but it will happen. We've got 3 more spots throughout the summer, and we'll figure out a way. And he'll be on his summer vacation from Congress, so maybe that'll work. Anyway, it just seemed a fun segue from what Rogers Healy did last week, because he was talking about Dallas today and what Dallas is going to be. And just to remind you, because it's kind of complex, Dallas, now when I was born in Dallas in 1949, we had 400,000 people. Plano probably had 2,500. You know, I mean, all of South Lake was a gas station. You know, Addison had an airport and an old school. I mean, it was, you know, it's so different now, and it's slated to be so much different. You may have seen, if you heard what he said, between 300, almost 400 people a day come to this area a day. We've got upwards of about 8 million now in the Metroplex. We're going to have about 10 million in the Metroplex in the next 15 years or so, give or take some. So that means more traffic, but it means so much more fun and opportunity and great eating and great culture. And so I'm looking forward to it. It's a different Dallas than the one I was born into. And so I'm really looking forward to it. But the thing that's confusing, just statistically, and then no more statistics, we're going to talk about Candy Bar and John Neely, Bryan, and all kinds of things. But statistics-wise, remember what he was saying. Dallas is actually the 3rd largest city within the city limits in Texas now. San Antonio is bigger within the city limits. Houston is by far bigger within the city limits than any other Texas town. Houston will be surpassing Chicago in the next 10 or 15 years as the 3rd largest city in the United States. But what we don't remember is Dallas Metroplex, DFW Metroplex, is bigger than Houston's Metroplex by about 500,000. So in that same time frame, we're going to supplant Chicago and become the metropolitan area, and become the 3rd largest metropolitan area in the United States behind New York and Los Angeles. And so that's a very different Dallas than the one I grew up in. And so, and it's been fun to live in these times. But let's go back about 180 years. 1840s. You know, we were part of the Peters Colony. You know, the revolution took place, San Jacinto was in April of 36. Well, about 5 years later, in the Peters Colony, there was hardly anybody to be seen. We didn't even have that many Indians. The Comanches were kind of west of here, and so we later built a line of forts to protect against that west of here. But King's Fort, just a place you could close the door and be safe, in about where Kaufman is now, just below Kaufman. Bird's Fort over in Haltom City, those all date to the early 1840s, those kind of places. But a very interesting man came along in the early 1840s to the banks of the Trinity, and that was John Neely Bryan. Now, I don't know what to say about John Neely Bryan. He came because that bluff above the Trinity, and of course there were no levees, you know, where all the tributaries came together, he saw a land opportunity. But he was a very strange man. You've read some stories about him. One time he told his wife he was headed out for a little while, and he came back 2 years later. You know, Well, needless to say, poor John Neely, Bryan ended up, he spent the last part of his life in the insane asylum in Austin and died there. But anyway, he is the founder of Dallas. He named Dallas, but who did he name it after? And that's the interesting issue, because was it Vice President George Mifflin Dallas? There were a couple other Dallases around, and he never said. And so, but I choose to think it's George Mifflin Dallas, but who knows? But we're Dallas. And so he pitches a tent right there at the confluences on the Trinity, and we've been trying to figure out how to navigate the Trinity ever since. We've kind of given up on that one, the navigable Trinity River. But you know, one of the most interesting stories, and I left some show and tells for afterwards. There's some books back there. One of them is Sabotaged. Jim Platt wrote that before he died. And what it's about the Reunion Colony, La Reunion, you know, Reunion Tower. So many things, Dallas, when you see they're called Reunion, it's after that colony. And I don't know what you know about that colony, but it was kind of utopian. Victor Considerant, Frenchman, brought over a bunch of French, Belgian, German folks, and they were going to put together a kind of a colony of kind of a utopian colony. It was Reunion Colony. If you go out Singleton now to where Fish Trap Road is beyond Hampton, there's a lake there, and there's a cemetery right next to Pinkston. A lot of those people are buried in that cemetery. The Reunion Colony, their problem was they could write music, they could write great stories, they were very artistic people. They didn't know how to farm. And you know, and that was a problem. Not only did they not know how to farm, but that particular area of Dallas County was not all that fertile. I mean, it was kind of a little bit hard scrabble. And so they lasted a few years. Considerant left. But the people who stayed, even after the colony broke up, gave Dallas a flavor in the 1850s that's different than any other upwardly coming frontier place. The people in the cemetery, I'll give you a name in the cemetery, Julius Rivershawn. I mean, those people stayed and they made Dallas their home, and it gave Dallas kind of a cultural edge, such as it was. Of course, Dallas was still pretty hard scrabble in the 1860s. In fact, downtown burned the ground in 1860. It just burned down. But some of the old families, you know the names, Gideon Pemberton, well, the Neelys, Gideon Pemberton, the Beemans, the Millers, Millermore, you know, their plantation, it was, you know, in the Oak Cliff area. It's been moved to Old City Park now, and you can tour Millermore. And maybe one of the greatest early stories of Dallas are the Cockrells. Alexander Cockrell was Dallas County Sheriff, but he was shot by a miscreant in an argument and killed. Left his widow, Sarah. You may know the name Sarah Cockrell, and if you don't, know that the great Dallas business person of that era and of the next couple decades was a woman. It was Sarah Cockrell. Cockrell Hill Road, Cockrell Hill, Texas. She built, Kay Bailey Hutchinson wrote a book about, and there's one over there to look at, about Texas women, important Texas women, and Sarah Cockrell was one of them. She says bridge builder because she did. Bridges over the Trinity, things across the Trinity, hotels. She was a landowner. She was Dallas' most prominent business person of her era. And so Sarah Cockrell is a big name. And now, have you ever heard people say that Dallas shouldn't exist? You know, it's that old Dallas shouldn't exist thing. Well, there's a couple reasons that it does, and it doesn't have to do with pure accident. And I would point to the year 1873, when it's not duplicitous, you just don't tell the whole story. A bill was introduced in the state legislature that said that, you know, we had some railroad lines to cross and come, you know, they were laying out railroads in the early 1870s. And the piece of legislation said that the railroad would run within a mile of Browder Springs. We don't even know if the people in the legislature knew where Browder Springs was, but Browder Springs, that area is where the old city park was. And so it was meant to run down. It was an effort to bring the railroads to Dallas, and it worked, and we got the railroads, and Dallas started up strong. Now, I think it's great for tourism, but I'm not sure it tells the real story when you go out to the convention center area and see all the bronze cattle coming down the hill, and it's a bunch of. Try cotton brokering, insurance, banking instead of cattle stuff. Leave the cattle stuff for some other place, but it's good for tourism, and so that's fine. We were banking and insurance and cotton brokering and all along. Now, one of the most interesting guys that came around during this era was in the. You may have heard of Hetty Green. She was the Witch of Wall Street, the wealthiest woman of the Gilded Age, America's most wealthy woman. She bought a piece of railroad line from Collis Huntington, and it ran around the Terrell area and the Texas Midland Railway. She sent her son, Edward Howland Robinson Green, to run the railroad, and he had a mistress who had a really difficult past, Mabel, and he named one of his railroad cars Mabel. But Colonel Green was a bon vivant, and you'll see him in the old Red Courthouse Museum. But Colonel Green left Terrell because he and Mabel, that just was not the kind of thing they wanted in Terrell, even though he headed that railroad. So he came to Dallas, and they lived in the Oriental Hotel downtown. But then Dallas got all up in arms about Colonel Green and Mabel. But he ended up finally decamping. He kept this area as his home for the rest of his life because he was one of the richest men in America, and you didn't want attorneys general around the country trying to make you resident of their state or area. But Colonel Green, one of the great local history items is in 1899, October of 1899. The St. Louis Motor Car Company sent down a St. Louis motor car, and Colonel Green bought it. They started in Terrell. Terrell always likes to say they started in Terrell. And he drove to Dallas. It took 5 hours. And Colonel Green's, that was the first gasoline-powered motor car trip in Texas, was Colonel Green and Ben Gill from Terrell to Dallas. And when he got there, he went around the old Red Courthouse 2 or 3 times. And so if anybody, that's a piece of trivia you may never be able to use again, but if you ever want to know the first gasoline-powered motor car trip in Texas, that's the one. Now, really, the history of Dallas is really takes off in the early 20th century. We had a flood. Anybody ever heard of the flood of 1908? Oh, yeah. If you go down in the design district off Turtle Creek, they have this big blue post. It represents the high water mark of that flood. We didn't have levees. The high water mark of that flood, and it's high. It was after that flood that we decided maybe we needed levees. And that was the beginning of levees on the Trinity River. Now we've been trying ever since to figure out what we're going to do between those levees, and we're still working on it. We got all these plans for the levees, but we'll see. But the bottom line is that's the same year we took the city manager form of government. As against alderman, council thing, city manager form of government. We were early with that, and that was in that same time period. We also annexed Oak Cliff. I forgot to give you some of the names of early Oak Cliff folks. The Hordes. There's still a Hordes Ridge around Marsalis and Lancaster. The Horde family cabin still exists, but that was Oak Cliff. And we found out in 1908 when it flooded that if you didn't have a bridge and you didn't have levees, you couldn't get to you couldn't get to Oak Cliff. And so we built the levees, we built the bridges. Oak Cliff was annexed, and we were a major. We were a city of 100,000. I mean, we weren't that big, but in terms of that period, in that period, we had visits from President Roosevelt, as in Theodore Roosevelt. Franklin later came to the Texas Centennial in '36, but Theodore came earlier than that. Theodore Roosevelt, his successor, William Howard Taft, William Jennings Bryan came to campaign, and so we were an up and coming city. World War I came along. Now I noticed a couple people looking at that picture. I had an estate once where the family they just didn't want this thing. I said, I want it. This guy's father was out at Love Field. You know, Love Field was a World War I invention. Love was a aviator that was killed, and the Love Field was named after Love. And during the war and for a while after the war, military uses mainly. Now, later on when I was a kid in the 50s, this sounds so goofy, but I bet some of you did it too. The main thing to do in the 50s was to drive out to Love Field, park, and watch the planes land. Does that sound a little dull? We used to watch the airplanes land at Love Field. That was a nice Sunday afternoon outing. But yeah, Charlotte. That's about it. Well, I mean, other than eating in places like, I mean, the eating was a little limited too. If you Italian, you got Perino's. You know, fish, you got Jay's Marine Grill. You know, later we got kind of sophisticated. You know, Little Bit of Sweden was a smorgasbord, and Cattleman's came in, and you know, and that sort of thing. But it took a while, and so, but no, that was a Sunday afternoon to watch the airplanes land. But back to World War I. That's an ordnance depot picture. I'm going to give that to the airport. They've got another one of a different group of people, but I'm just going to keep it a while and then give it to them because it's really part of their heritage. And there's a little picture of a crash. A lot of crashing took place at that airport, but that became Dallas's airport after the war uses were over. And so, incidentally, while we're looking over there, when this is over with, you can not only look on some of the books that I'm talking about and some of the pictures, but I've got 2 or 3 other things. In this era, some vaudeville people, movie people, theater people, Carl Hoplitzel, you know him from the hospital. Carl Hoplitzel had a movie chain, you know, and basically we had vaudeville, we had movies, the theaters down. The Majestic was Hoplitzel's thing, but what I have laying out there is something that came along later in the 50s, and we'll talk about it. But I have about 30 years worth of playbills for the Dallas summer musicals from 57 till the mid 80s. So you may want to look through. You'll see names in there: Ginger Rogers, Jack Benny, Marlena Dietrich, Judy Garland. All came to the music hall stage in Dallas during that period. But you may want to look through that, the old playbills. They're fun just to see who advertises. But the other thing I want you to look at after this is there's 2 books there. Worley's City Guide. One of them's 1921, one of them's 1950. And what they do alphabetically, for you who go back a long ways in Dallas, they have the names alphabetically. I found my grandparents lived on Marlboro. I didn't know they ever lived there, and in 1921. And so you can find, if you got family, those are fun. And the ads are also fun. So anyway, have fun over there. But let's leave World War I, and I want to make sure. I got 10 minutes. I'm going to use all of it. Or I'll use 8 minutes of it. You've got to end the stuff. But we're not going to nearly get to 1960. But maybe, hopefully, nobody else will drop it. This is the first time in several years. You remember several years ago, we had Commissioner Price, and a reporter met him down in the lobby and gave him a hard time, and he left. That's the last time we had. You know about that. That's the last time we had that. It was kind of like, oh, our speaker came and went. So, but in case this ever happens again, we'll finish up this history. But a lot of people do not realize that at the end of World War I. We always think of the Depression as coming in 29 with the fall of the stock market and all that sort of stuff. But in fact, in 1919, 1920, 1921, as a result of the end of the war, farm product prices depressed incredibly. It was like a depression in the country. People could raise the crops, but they couldn't sell them for what it cost to raise them. And people were coming all over a lot of states, but certainly Texas. People were coming from everywhere to try to find work. and it was because basically they were poor. And amongst the people that came in Dallas was the Barrow family and the Parker family. Now West Dallas was our answer. Houston had its own answer. San Antonio had its own answer. We had an answer, and that was put them across the river. And of course, across the river, West Dallas, that whole area, it was poor. That's where Wesley Rankin Center came from. The ladies of Dallas said, we cannot endure watching the awfulness of life over there with these farm families that are building lean-tos and sheds, and there's not running water and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, amongst those were Henry and Kumi Barrow and Emma Parker, and the Bonnie and Clyde story. It's evergreen, ever fresh. People all around the country have always been interested. Certainly Bonnie and Clyde in '67 sparked it. The Highwaymen more recently sparked it again. It's just people are fascinated by Bonnie and Clyde. But I think the Bonnie and Clyde story is the story of Dallas in the 20s and into the 30s and the hardships that went on. I'm not going to do Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde's really fun, but the bottom line was well, the bottom line may be, if you ask somebody, what do you identify with Dallas, what do you think they'd say? Assassination. A lot of them would still say Bonnie and Clyde. They would, J.R. Ewing, they would say the Dallas show in the 80s, and they would say the Dallas Cowboys. I think you just hit exactly what people identify Dallas with, and one of those is Bonnie and Clyde. If you're ever interested in Bonnie and Clyde, I'll tell you where the old bridge was that Clyde, it's in the middle of nowhere, trees surround it, the old bridge off Singleton down there. Buck and Clyde are buried in the old Western Heights Cemetery on Fort Worth Avenue with an apt gravestone. It says "Gone but not forgotten." It's amazing, but you had Bonnie and Clyde. Now, a highlight of the 30s was the Texas Centennial. Mr. Bob, Robert Thornton, R.L. Thornton, the mayor of Dallas, dueling with Amon Carter of Fort Worth, the very wealthy, well-connected friend of Franklin Roosevelt. But we won the Centennial. Now, we'd always had a state fair since the 19th century. We used to for a long time horse racing was outlawed, but back then it wasn't. There was a horse rink. They ran horses and all that sort of thing for this. Even had interesting speakers back in the 19th century, turn of the 20th century. Quanah Parker, Comanche chief, spoke at the State Fair of Texas in 1907. And so you had all these really interesting things happening. So the State Fair existed, but the Centennial, to celebrate the 100th year of Texas independence, was 1936. Now, Franklin Roosevelt came. That's when he unveiled the statue of Robert E. Lee on Turtle Creek that's now been hauled off. But basically, Franklin Roosevelt came and spoke at the Centennial. The thing about the Centennial was the buildings that got built for that Centennial. Sally Rand now danced. We need to talk about ecdysists, people who take their clothes off. Charlotte was saying, "What's that?" But Sally Rand danced with her feathers at the Centennial. But the Centennial, what we got out of the Centennial is a nationally registered historic landmark of Art Deco architecture. Not only the lagoon and the reflecting pools and all that sort of thing, but also the Hall of State. Now, we worked on it last year, and Tom worked some on it and some others. We're gonna wrestle into the ground on getting the director out here and talking about the new refurbishments of the Hall of State, which is just fabulous. It looks like it did in '36. But we now have the new Alamo diorama, much bigger than the one down at the Alamo. This guy in Pennsylvania luckily sent it after we had the freeze. And so they've dedicated a whole room, so we'll do a tour afterwards of the Siege of the Alamo stuff. But the bottom line is the Hall of State and that whole area are a jewel and a treasure. We've had the speakers here talking about, including Valletta, talking about the plans for that place for the future. So we're going to see more and more and more of that stuff. Now, we have to also confront well, let's not confront it yet because we only have 3 minutes. but let's just, and I left something big out of the 20s. We don't realize our city was, of course, racially very segregated, and down by the tracks down there, Deep Ellum and that area, you've heard Lead Belly, Blind Lemon Jefferson, Robert Johnson, all the jazz greats right here in Dallas. And some of them lived in Dallas. And so the Deep Ellum culture was huge, and it's something we tend to gloss over, and we shouldn't. It's incredibly important in Dallas history. But so I didn't want to leave that behind in the 20s. But let's just say the war came. Everybody went to war. Some did not come back, including my uncle, and I'm named after him. But after the war, of course, was an explosion. You know, your parents, my parents certainly, at my age, they came back. My dad got back from the Pacific in November, married my mother in December, went to SMU in January of '46 when there were just Quonset huts all over the place out there. And, you know, that was GI Bill. That was that generation. And Dallas grew and grew and grew with all those new families. That was the baby boom. That's where we boomers come from. And that was the baby boom, and such a boom in so many ways. But still, like I say, when I was born, nevertheless, there were like 400,000. And maybe, I just hate to leave out the rest, but maybe some other time. let's just end, because there's another book there that's really fun. Doug Swanson, used to be with Dallas Morning News, wrote one about Benny Binion. Now, Carl will appreciate that, because Tom Shipp met Benny Binion in Albuquerque. This is from Troy Post through Bryan. And part of the land on which Lover's Lane Church sits belonged to Benny Binion. He was a member. He loved it. He used to take a $100 bill. He'd sit in the back, of course, with his reputation, but he loved Tom Shipp. He would make a $100 bill into a little eagle, and of course, being in the back, he put it on top. And so when it came forward, Tom Shipp would know he was there. But Benny Binion, the book is fabulous. In the late 40s into the early 50s, Benny Binion and Herbert the Cat Noble fought it out, trying to get each other. You know, can we bomb his compound? Can we do this? Can we do that? They were after each other. It was the Great War of Binion and Noble. We were back at the gangland stuff again. It all ended in the early 50s when Herbert, who had a complex out in the Lake Dallas area with walls and lights and riflemen and all that, he decided to go out and get his own mail. And that was a bad move. He opened the mailbox, and you know what happened. Kaboom. And so anyway, that's a whole book's worth. So maybe sometime we'll get into the 50s and the interesting history of Dallas in the 1950s, but we have reached 1 o'clock. Sorry about that. So we'll save the rest till later.
Isn't he great? And we look forward to having Colin Allred sometime in the summer. Next week's program will be Paige McDaniel, the President and CEO of Community Partners of Dallas. She's going to be talking about leadership in tough times. It's a really great program. I've heard it before. She's attended a lot of leadership seminars, and so you'll really enjoy hearing her. She's a great speaker. So now, if you're a board member, if you'll rise, because we have a lot of guests here, if you're interested in joining, if you'll be sure to see one of us so we can get you signed up today. Thank you. And Past President Richard, book is being placed to your honor today at McShann Elementary. We thank you so much. And I appreciate you mentioning Hall Estate. Our district installation is going to be at the Hall Estate. And so let me know if you'd like to go to that dinner. It's going to be a great opportunity to get to check out the Hall Estate. Thank you. And now if you'll rise. Michelle's going to do the four-way test. Thank you, Michelle.
Hello. All right, the four-way test is an ethical guide for Rotarians to use for their personal and professional relationships. The test has been translated into more than 100 languages, and Rotarians recite it at club meetings. Please repeat with me or recite with me. Of the things we think, say, or do, first, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be to all concerned?
Have a great weekend.